Welcome to the PewterCast. I'm Brent Allen, your host. Today is November the 30th, 2016, and this is episode 22, Kentucky Fried Sea Chicken. It's finger-licking good, isn't it, Bucks fans? Oh, man, you guys might as well just give me a white suit and call me the Colonel. You know, I am from Kentucky, I really am, and I know how to fry me up some chicken, and I gotta tell you, sea chicken, okay, doesn't really sound very tasty, but I tell you what, after this last weekend, I got some fingers I'm licking. I'm licking my chops right now, especially since this week for me has been nothing but Thanksgiving leftovers. Anybody else getting tired of them yet? I am. Oh my word. Now, listen, here's the thing. I have never been good at coming up with like alternative uses for leftovers. Like I've seen some of you people out there, like you're making some sort of jerk turkey soup, and somebody made turkey jerky I saw the other day, and somebody made like a turkey chili, and actually that looked really good, the turkey chili. But you know, something weird. You take it and you do something weird that kind of breathes a new life into it. That's never been me. It's the Thanksgiving plate I get on Thursday, is the Thanksgiving plate I get on Friday, and then Friday night, and then Saturday morning, and Saturday after, and every meal until it's gone. And we're still eating it, and I'm okay. I like Thanksgiving. I like a big feast, but I'm ready for something different. All right, let's get off food. We're talking about the Bucks here. Then we're talking about the Seahawks game. Now, if you missed the instant cast from this past week, I encourage you, go check it out. Now, I know I'm only talking to a handful of people who missed it, because this last week's show became our fastest downloaded episode ever. And currently, it ranks number 4 on our all-time listener or listened to episode as well, which is amazing. I mean, that thing blew up. It took off, which is awesome. And then we also have listeners to those that are on the Rat Pack Sports Network. We have listeners that are on YouTube. We have listeners from Heart Radio. That those listeners don't calculate into my numbers. So the listener base for the show is exploding, which is just awesome. I love getting to see that. So I want to say thanks to everyone who has been supporting the show. I want to say thank you to everyone who has been sending in emails or tweeting with me or sharing stuff on Facebook, who've been leaving iTunes reviews. But today, I especially want to thank those of you who have been participating in the Instant Cast show. Now, for those of you who may not know, a couple of weeks ago, we made a switch to the Instant Cast show. Originally the idea was that it was just a short 15-20 minute right after the game exposition based on how I was feeling right after the game before we got to, digest it. It's just kind of, hey, here's the raw emotion, the raw feeling. And then during the bye week, we wound up upgrading the gear here in the studio that added the ability to be able to broadcast the show live, and added the ability for people to call in and actually be a part of the show. That was a special thing that we did during the bye week. But the bye week only comes around once a year, folks. So I was scratching my head trying to figure out, well, how can I use this equipment? We've got it. We've got the setup. We can do it now. And then a couple of suggestions came in from some of your fellow PewterCast fans. And what we wound up doing was we experimented with it, and we morphed the instant cast from me just talking and giving this big, long diatribe on how I was feeling after the game into letting you guys call into the show. It was a live show. It's been an hour-long show. And you guys call in, and you dictate what we talk about. You, as the fans, tell us what we're going to talk about. Now, what makes us different from other podcasts and other shows is that we are the only Bucks show that you can call into after the game and talk live. Now, on the Bucks Uncensored, you can call and you can leave a voicemail, and tons of you guys are doing that, and I love seeing the interaction over there. It's awesome, but you can't talk live with Pulowski. Over at What the Buck, now that is a live show every single week, and I encourage you guys to all go listen to that, and you can call into the show, and you can talk to Derek and Mark and whomever else they have on the show. But their show typically isn't until Thursday, so it's a bit of a wait. The Instant Cast show is the only place where you can do both. Call in, talk to us live on the air, right on the tails of the game. Now, if you'd like to join us for the Instant Cast shows, the only way for us to be able to do that was to set a hard time. So to help accommodate for late games and stuff like that, we've set the time at 10 p.m. on Sunday nights, and that gets us past, the 1 and the 4 o'clock games. But, if we have an 8 o'clock game, Thursday night game, or the Dallas game they keep talking might get flexed to an 8 o'clock game, then we'll be there literally as the game ends. So 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Sunday nights. You can go to mixler.com/the PewterCast. That's mixlr.com/the PewterCast. You can go there right now. Actually, you can subscribe so that when we go live, you'll get a little reminder email and you'll be able to join in whenever we go live. And just in case you may think that it's too late, it's after bedtime, it's 10 o'clock at night, here's a tip from a fellow listener. Lay in bed, pop in some headphones, and where your significant other is falling asleep, you can listen to the show and participate in the chat room even if you can't call in, which is awesome. So I want to say thanks to all of you who've been joining us week after week. I think this is our fourth week or so doing the Instant Cast show that way. And, to those who just kind of pop in and out of the chat room or listen live, maybe make a comment every once in a while, thank you. You're a part of making the show happen. To those of you who take the extra step to call in, thank you. You literally are making the show happen because that's dictating what we're talking about. And there's a few people who want to call in, but they can't make it during that time. So you know what? You can actually still leave a voicemail. Now, we can take those too. So there was one voicemail this last week that I didn't get to on the Instant Cast show. And honestly, we don't have any iTunes reviews this week. So I thought, why not play it here? So you guys can get it here. This is you guys can get a listen to it right here. This is a fan voicemail who called in talking about this last game with the Seahawks. Take a listen.
I equate football with an abusive relationship sometimes as a Bucs fan. Sometimes, you do everything right and you still get hit in the mouth, but sometimes you just come home and you cook dinner and he brings flowers home and it's just a great night and we have fun, we laugh, and that's where I'm at right now. Maybe we've turned a corner. Maybe we can work this out. Maybe we're a playoff team. Maybe. No, not for sure, but maybe. I don't know. I'm really good. I'm feeling good. I feel good for the first time in a while. And I'm thinking that there's a lot of Bucs fans out there that can sympathize with me in that respect. Anyway, defense had an amazing game. Averns knocking it out of the park today for his dad. Rest in peace. Noah Spence looks like a player. I'm not the only one that sees that, right? The guy he was going against today wasn't great, but he was beating him all day. He lined up on either side. Gerald's eating. Linebacking core looked good and fast today. Everything was great on defense. And offense, we did our thing for the first quarter. I think Jameis is going to be the quarterback of the future. I don't know. I'm just riding really high on this, Really high. But anyway, thanks for the time.
And that was a voicemail. I don't know who that was from. They didn't tell me, didn't leave me a name to be able to shout out. So to whoever you were, thank you for calling to leave that in. And, we're going to talk about everything that you talked about a little bit throughout the course of the show. But for right now, let me just say, guys, I don't think Jameis Winston is the quarterback of the future. I can't say that. Jameis Winston is the quarterback right now, not of the future. He is the quarterback right now. Well, fans, it's that simple. Join us for the Instant Cast live show every Sunday night, 10 o'clock. Call in, be part of the show. We'll talk to you. And if you can't make it, don't worry. The show will still be up on your favorite podcasting platform by the time you wake up in the morning, and we'll be playing all that week on Rat Pack Sports Radio. Okay, so enough of that. Let's get into this show right here. This is the main episode for this week. And just so you guys know, it's just me here this week. I had a guest lined up, and he had a last-minute conflict, which happens from time to time. So it's just going to be you and me hanging out for the next little bit. And we're going to be talking all about the Seahawks game, what we liked, what we didn't like. And then for our top 3, well, since it's just me this week, we're actually going to do a top 5. And what we're going to be talking about is our top 5 leadership moments from Jameis Winston. We'll talk about that a lot more coming up in that segment and why we're doing that. And then we're going to close out the show with a familiar segment by now called Fan to Fan. It's all coming your way Stay tuned here at the PewterCast.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do.
You're listening to the PewterCast, episode 22, Kentucky Fried SeaChickens. Now, Bucs fans, at this point, we all know how the game from this past weekend wound up. We all know that the Bucs beat the visiting Seattle Seahawks 14-5, which really may not seem like an impressive score, but when you consider that our defense held the Seahawks to a single field game all game long, and then they got 2 points because we had a little safety, we messed up, actually gave it to them. You realize what's most impressive about the score is not how many points we scored, but just how many points the Seahawks did not score. So why don't we get into this game, and why don't we start with some overall thoughts? My first overall thought is this was a great game. No matter how we may pick apart different parts of the offense, defense, special teams, whatever, let's remember that this, as a team, was a great game and a great victory for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a game, folks, that I have been talking about since before the season began. I know some other people have kind of been saying similar things as me here in weeks, in recent weeks, but I have actually been saying since the beginning, and I hate to say I told you so. I hate to say I told you so, but I think I have to say I told you so. What I said was, regardless of what we did up to this point in the season, if we came out and won against the Seahawks, this would be the point when the national media would start paying attention to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I was right. The Bucs have been popping up on ESPN, NFL Network, all the national headlines all week long. And I got to tell you, if the Bucs keep winning, they're going to continue to be in the spotlight. Now, what most people are saying right now is, oh, hey, the Bucs. Hey, look at them. Hey, they kind of popped up. Yeah, well, it's still the Bucs. Let's not get too. They're saying what we were saying several weeks ago. Let's not get too excited yet. Okay, that's where they are right now, and I get it. I really get it. But they're kind of keeping an eye on us. Now, this week we're going up against the San Diego Chargers, and we have a chance to begin to make people believe in us. Okay, what happened last week is we got on everybody's radar. Now we've got to get in there and we've got to turn them into fans, and even if they're bandwagon fans, people start jumping on the Tampa Bay bandwagon because, hey, all of a sudden we look like we're popping up. We look like we're doing okay. You know what? I don't hate those fans. Now we all know the real fans. We've been around, right? Those of us that are listening here to the PewterCast. But those are the new guys coming in. We can't hate on them. They're fine. And, they don't bother me at all. But we'll start seeing those guys pop up. But now is the time to start converting other people's fans to Buccaneers fans. That's what we have. And we're going to capture some of those people. We're on their radar. Now we've got to make them believe. Okay, let's break down this game. First, let's start with the offense. Man, those first two drives, amazing. Fantastic. Imposed our will. Hard hitting. The rest of the game, couldn't really finish a drive, as evidenced by the score. I mean, we went out, we scored a touchdown, extra point. Went back out the very next drive, touchdown, extra point. Rest of the game didn't do anything. Not as far as actually getting points up on the board. Okay, now I think we actually had a pretty good game, all things considering. We just couldn't finish. Here's the thing. I went back, I watched the game, I watched a lot of game tape, I even watched some of the game tape that some other people did, breaking things down, and I don't think that there was any one thing on the offense that kind of kept us back, because individually I thought each unit did pretty good throughout the game. There were some mistakes here and there, but throughout the game, we did pretty well. They just didn't finish. Okay, so let's break it down. So Jameis Winston, we always start with him because he's the quarterback, and that's where we go. I thought he was accurate. He was cool in the pocket. He protected the ball well, except for that interception. I'm pretty sure that morning he had scrambled eggs for breakfast because he helped us keep drives alive. And if you've listened to the Instant Cast, you already know about the really bad joke that I love of what's Jameis Winston eating for breakfast? Scrambled eggs, because that boy can scramble. I thought Jameis. I told you guys it was a bad joke, didn't I? I hear you booing out there right now, but you know what? I have the microphone, and I say I love that joke. It's funny to me. My 4-year-old laughs every time I tell him, and he gets it. All right, Jameis Winston. He commanded the field, guys. And here's the thing. I think Jameis Winston should be a Pro Bowler again this year. Maybe as an alternative, maybe not the first round pick, but I definitely think Jameis Winston very well could be and should be a Pro Bowler, and he should be very high on that ballot, which, by the way, I believe you can go to Buccaneers.com right now and vote in the Pro Bowl. I think you can do that. Do the fan side of the vote for the Pro Bowl. All right, let's look over at the running back unit. Guys, Doug Martin's back. And each week he keeps getting better. He's shaking off more and more rust. Somebody's putting some WD-40 on that boy, because he's getting loose. He is hitting the holes harder. He's seeing them more clearly. And I predict. Now, you guys know I don't do much predicting on this show. I hate predictions. But I predict that this week Doug Martin breaks off a 20-plus yard run. I feel like this is the week that's going to happen. He's gonna break off for a big run this week, which I don't think we've seen him do yet since he's been back from injury. In fact, I'm going to call out my buddies over at the Bucks and Brews podcast. That'd be Ben Schaefer, that's Stafford, that's Troy Carter, and that's Alex. And guys, I am going to give you guys your beer bet for this week. I'm calling you out. This is my beer bet that Doug Martin is going to break off for a 20-plus yard run. What are you guys going to do? You going to take it? You going to double down on it? Tweet me back. Let me know. I'd love to know, because that's my beer bet with you guys this week. Doug Martin breaks off 20-plus yard run. I feel like this is the week he's going to do it. I just sense it coming. I sense it. I feel it. And it's got me so much so that I'm making a prediction, which you guys know. I hate doing that on this show. Hate doing that. Peyton Barber. This week, I think Peyton Barber showed why they released Mike James, which I hated, because Mike James he's been a Buccaneer for what, 3 years now. I like the guy. But hey, Peyton's pretty good. Peyton's really good. I hate that we lost Mike to an injury earlier this year. I feel like if he didn't, he would actually still be very much with the team. So best wishes to him. He might actually get re-signed to the practice squad. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But they released Mike James. We've got Peyton. Jacquiz is coming back this week. We've got Charles Sims, who's on his way back from the IR. We've still got Antoine Smith on IR. Guys, I got to tell you, I'm feeling pretty good about our running back stable once again. I mean, you guys know how this year has gone, right? Is we lost Doug, as our primary guy, and then we lost Mike first, right? Mike James, and then we lost Doug. And all we had was Charles Sims and then Peyton Barber. So we went out and we got Jacquiz. So we got Jacquiz back. And then we lost Charles Sims, and all of a sudden Jacquiz turned up and started turning some heads, and there was Peyton Barber, kind of getting some reps here and there, and all of a sudden we went out and we signed Antoine Smith, and then Jacquiz goes out and gets himself hurt, and Mike James comes back, and then Antoine Smith goes out and gets hurt, and then Doug Martin comes back. Now, Doug Martin has turned, he's still shaking off the rust, but he's getting better. All right, we just talked about him. But now we've got Doug Martin, Jacquiz is coming back, Peyton Barber still doing good, and we've got Charles Sims coming back. Now, guys, listen, Tampa Bay only keeps 3 active running backs on the roster. Historically, anyway, they only keep 3 active running backs on the roster. So Antoine Smith, he's on IR for the rest of the year. We don't have to worry about him. But what happens when Charles Sims comes back? Chuck Sims, because that means we'll have Doug, Jacquiz, Peyton, and Charles Sims. Are we going to go with 4 on the active roster? Are we going to release one and try to get him to re-sign to the practice squad? If so, that's probably going to be Peyton, I would imagine. Probably. We'll see. I just don't see them keeping more than 3 on the active roster. But guys, I got to tell you, I'm feeling pretty good at the running back position again for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Wide receiver, let's take a look at them. Mike Evans is clutch. And I got to tell you what, he better be a Pro Bowler this year, hands down. No questions asked. First round, I don't know what they call him, first ballot, kind of like they do the Hall of Fame guys. I don't know what they call him, but he doesn't need to be an alternative. He just needs to be in as a Pro Bowler this year. I thought Adam Humphries was good. Stephen Che had some good film on Adam Humphries this week, showing that a big thing for him and Cameron Brate is where they're lining up close to the line. And it's not quite the jumbo package that we hear a lot about, but it looks very similar to that. And he would get a bump on a D lineman and then release out into his route, which he would do several times, which just goes to show that even though we didn't always see Adam Humphries with a catch, or we didn't even see him show up on the stat sheet, it doesn't mean he wasn't in on the play, playing an integral part. So I thought that was great to see out of Hump. I thought that was a great thing that Stephen Che pointed out in his game film deal, which if you guys don't follow that, make sure you do. Get his tweets into your phone so you know when he's about to do it, and make sure you go back and watch those. You can do that right now. It's Stephen Che. I think it's Che Says. It's Cheah. Kind of looks like Chia. Che Says. Anyway, go follow him. So did that. The rest of the wide receiving core, I hate to say this. The rest of the guys, Cecil Shorts and all those other guys, they were serviceable, but forgettable. Now, guys, I've said this before and I'll say it right now. I believe that we can win with the crew that we have right now. The team that we have put together, even the guys at wide receiver, with a bunch of guys who are serviceable but forgettable once you get past Adam Humphries, we can win with those guys. We have for the last 3 weeks. I think we can win out with those guys. But I do think that we need another elite type wide receiver to dominate the air. That's something that we're missing. We need another one to complement Mike Evans to get out there. So looking for that coming up here in this upcoming offseason. But for right now, we can win with the crew that we have. We absolutely can. All right, let's move on to tight ends. Cameron Brate, he continues to make America great again. Same thing about him that I said about Adam Humphries. He was on the other side. It was Adam Humphries and Cam Brate both catching a little bump and then releasing out into their route. And there were several good plays where you saw them doing that in this past game. Which, remember, just because you don't see him on the stat sheet, just because he doesn't show up as big points in your fantasy league, doesn't mean that he wasn't playing well and playing in on every single play. Which, by the way, guys, that's why you don't hear me quoting a whole bunch of stats all the time. Okay, stats are important. They tell us things. All right, I believe in numbers. Okay, numbers represent things. But the truth is they don't tell us everything. They're just a tool, and tools can be manipulated. And you have to remember that when you're hearing people just talk about stats. Okay, you can't look at stats and draw immediate conclusions without thinking of things that the stats aren't showing you. Okay, and you've got to be careful which stats you pull, because you pull them in a certain way, and all of a sudden it can start making you think that, oh man, Cameron Brate or Adam Humphries didn't really contribute much to the team, so we should just let them go. They're not good players. That's not true. Luke Stocker, let's talk about him. Luke Stocker scored 40% of Seattle's points for the game. That's so horrible to say, but he did. He scored 40% of their points. It was a stupid penalty, but he's still a great player, and I, for one, am glad he is on this team. Now, I don't know about Alan Cross, who got a lot of praise last week for his very first NFL touchdown. They call him Mike Honchos. I just didn't notice him this game. Now, that's not to say he wasn't in there, not to say he didn't have any plays. I don't know how many snaps he took. That's a stat that somebody could pull. I really don't know. I'm just saying I didn't notice him. That's all I'm saying, is I didn't notice him. I got to tell you guys, though, I think the real heroes and MVPs of the offense this week and the trophy should go to the offensive line. The offensive line is the group that I've been dying to talk about. I love getting to talk about the offensive line. I played offensive line. These guys were so good on Sunday. So good. I saw Donovan Smith, who was getting second and third hits on guys, and I have blasted him about that. Said Donovan Smith, you'll see him, he'll go up, he'll hit his guy, the guy will get past him, then Donovan just kind of scratches his head for the rest of the play. No. You go hit somebody else. If your guy gets past you, you either get to him or you go hit somebody else. That's rule number one for a tackle. Kevin Pamphile, he was back. He sealed the interior like a champ. Joe Hawley, he was in there getting scrappy, commanding that offensive line. Ali Marpet smashed and grabbed and got away with more holding than a kid at a middle school dance. I'm telling you what, Ali Marpet, another Pro Bowler. Wholeheartedly believe he should be another Pro Bowler. Joe Hawley, actually, for that matter, should be a Pro Bowler. Ali Marpet. Mark his name down. First round Pro Bowler. DeMar Dotson, I think in this game, DeMar Dotson showed why he got a contract extension. If you guys don't believe me, go back and watch the games. Watch the game and focus on that front five. Those guys were great, and they were bolstered by Brait and Hump and Stalker throughout the game, who helped to seal it up. And, of course, the guys Sheridan, he came in a few times, got a stupid penalty. Okay, fine, whatever. I'm getting really sick of those. But he was in. It was great play by the offensive line all the way around. And if you guys, I've mentioned it before, I'll tell you it again. If there's one Buccaneers live radio show that you listen to every week, do the one on Tuesday night, which is with Donovan Smith and Ali Marpet. It's a fantastic show. It's so funny. They're hosted by Casey Phillips, she's great. And go listen to that. Okay, that's the offense. Now let's talk about the defense. Now I think the guys over at Bucks and Brews made a good point about this on their podcast this week. They said essentially, I'll recap it. It said the defense has been inconsistent at best over the course of the season. So we can't crown them and say, oh, this is going to be the best defense ever. Oh, the defense is cured. We have to see the defense that we've seen the last couple of weeks. We need to see that continually and consistently show up. And I thought that was a great point that they were making. It's dangerous, Bucs fans, to sit back and say, hey, all of our defensive woes are cured. Now we're doing great. Okay, now we need to ride the momentum, but we need to see that continue to happen. All right. However, for this game, let's talk about it for this game. The defense was dominant. That's the only word to describe it. They were dominant, and the defense won this game. This is an example. What happened this last week, it's an example of what happens when the defense is completely kicking. All right, the front puts on pressure on the QB to make him make quick and stupid decisions so the cornerbacks and the safeties can break up passes and get interceptions. The secondary, those guys, the cornerbacks and safeties, they're covering well, and it delays the quarterback from being able to throw the ball, and all of a sudden the front seven have time to put pressure on the quarterback and make him make a stupid mistake. It's a symbiotic relationship. They work together, and this was them all game long. It was a fantastic effort by the defense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It really harkened back to that old defense that we all knew and loved from the early 2000s and the late 90s. Bradley McDougald, safety, it's the position that has the most concern for me on this entire team, and I think it's the first draft choice we need to make in next year's draft. Bradley McDougald as a safety, I think might have had what I think could be the game of his career. And that was even highlighted by the fact that he came in, he got a passing interference penalty, and because he jumped over the back of a guy, he wound up flipping over, and the way he just sort of sat up, he's laying on the ground like on his elbow, like he's waiting for somebody to come feed him some grapes, and he was smiling. He's just like, "Yeah, I did that. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, huh?" I love that kind of he knew what he did. It wasn't the best thing. It wasn't the best move. He knew, but what are you going to do? Let me tell you what, Bradley McDougald all game long, he was blitzing, he was picking up reads, he was pass blocking, he was breaking up passes. He did it all game long. He was all over the field. Levante and Quan showed up this game, and that was good to see, especially since they have been the target of so many, I'm going to say, attacks this year. People are saying they're not playing up to snuff this year. I saw Quan Alexander in, and I don't know what the stats are, but I saw Quan Alexander in on more tackles than I have seen in probably the last 4 or 5 weeks combined. I heard today that Levante David was the second tackle leader on the team this week. He was back in on it. Oh, and by the way, don't forget, Levante David also had the big fumble. He stripped and caused a fumble, and then picked it up and returned the ball. Welcome, Levante. You saw Levante rushing up and putting pressure on the QB, forcing the QB to make quick and stupid decisions. That was Levante. Guys, let me tell you what. The entire defensive line and linebacking crew this week were on point. Noah Spence, I have to believe, is coming along much faster than anticipated. Maybe by necessity. Maybe because he keeps getting thrown in there when he otherwise wouldn't due to injuries and things. But the speed and quickness which he gets around the tackles is amazing. It's amazing. Robert Ayers, now he may be the old guy on the crew, but let me tell you what, he can still get around. And there was one play where he was being double-teamed in the backfield, and he winds up splitting the two guys right in the middle, and he gets the sack. Almost stripped fumbled it. Almost got it. Speaking of a strip fumble, can we say the words Gerald McCoy? I'm starting a new hashtag, people. You guys know my favorite one right now is hashtag I'm with 19. I'm starting a new one. Hashtag fly Gerald fly. Because he was out there doing an airplane just flying around all game long. Hashtag fly Gerald fly. Guys, overall, this was an outstanding performance by the defense. What's going on? So what's going on with the defense? Why? I think this is the question everybody's asking. Why are they doing so much better now? And what was going on, just a handful of weeks ago when they were really the redheaded stepchild of the team? Well, I read this on JoeBucksFan.com earlier this week, or earlier today, actually, I believe it was, where they were talking about Mike Smith basically simplified the defense. The problem we kept hearing week in and week out was communication. So they went back in. Mike Smith at the beginning of the year said, we're gonna shift our scheme to suit our players. We're not going to try to force our players to suit the scheme. And good for him. He did what he said he was going to do. He made good on his promise. It was my biggest problem with Lovie Smith last year. Was he insisted on coaching his own scheme rather than fitting his scheme to the people that was in front of him. Mike Smith didn't fall into that trap. Communication was a problem, so they changed it. They weren't having success, and the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing you've been doing, only expecting a different result. And according to JoeBucksFan.com, I think it was during that long week after the Atlanta game, after the Thursday night game, Coach Cutter and the rest of the coaches sat down and said, hey, listen, something's not working. So we got to change something. What are we going to change? And they simplified things. And look what's been happening since. And I say, good for you, Mike Smith. Good for you, Coach. Please don't go away. Please, nobody hire you back as a full-time head coach. Listen, I like seeing people get promoted. That's fine. Please just stick around. Let's keep some continuity on defense for a while. What do you say, huh? Because let me tell you what. There's no other team that I think is going to get you to the Super Bowl faster than Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is my plea to Mike Smith. If I could write a letter to Mike Smith right now, it'd be don't go. If any team comes knocking on your door this next year, the answer is no. Todd Monken, same thing for you. No. The fastest way to the Super Bowl for you guys right now is with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right, special teams, let's talk about them. Brian Anger is the man. He is the man. And he, too, should be a Pro Bowler. Now, by my count, that's 4 Pro Bowlers. That's Jameis Winston, Ali Marpet, Brian Anger, Mike Evans. Maybe Robert Ayers. Oh, Gerald McCoy. Gerald McCoy's got to be a Pro Bowler, too. That's 5, 6. 6 Pro Bowlers. Wow. Could we have that many great players on our team? Yes, Bucs fans, we do. All right, somebody who's not going to be a Pro Bowler this year, Roberto Aguayo. After a game where he kicked perfectly for us and won us the game off his foot, he comes into this one, scores 2 extra points, misses his only field goal attempt. And it was close, too. It was pretty close. It wasn't just a full-on shank. Like, it was just outside that line. Coach said that the wind down there was pretty significant on game day. Can't use that as an excuse, but that's what they're saying. You know what I'm really glad about, though, this week? I'm not happy that Roberto missed the kick. I'm not happy about it at all. But what I'm really happy is there hasn't been this big fan public outcry. I'm glad for that. Hashtag I'm with 19. Holy cow. He will miss some. Every kicker misses some. Okay, it happens. It happens. It needs to happen less often than not. Did I say that right? It needs to happen less often than it does. Let's put it that way. Way less often. In fact, I would expect his percentages to be way higher. But I'm glad to give him this year. I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Shout out to Anthony DiPaolo, long snapper, perfect as always. He just put that ball right where it needed to go. Put that ball, maybe he should take up magic. Him and John DeRobos can go do a show on America's Got Talent this next year. All right, well, guys, for the sake of time, let's move on to final thoughts and grades. And, well, as always, we start with grades first. I don't know why we say it final thoughts and then grades. We should say grades and final thoughts because we always start with grades first. All right, grades. Offense, I'm going to give them a B. They get a B. The first quarter was amazing. But as an overall performance, you've got to be able to perform for 4 quarters out of the game. They only really performed for 1, okay, because they couldn't close the deal. They couldn't put the ball in the end zone for 3 quarters of the game. They got to be able to do that. So a B. A B means they did what they had a great first quarter. The rest of the quarters were so they get a B. The defense for me this week, I'm giving them an A+. An A+. They completely shut down what is possibly going to be the NFC representation in the Super Bowl if it's not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers themselves. Now, I almost downgraded them to an A just because they didn't score. You know, and you guys know, you've been listening to this. I've been saying that for a while. The defense needs to start scoring. The defense has to score. Defense has to score. Almost downgraded them to an 8, but they really made up for it with 6 sacks and everything else that they did. And they basically shut out the Seahawks. I mean, yeah, there was a little field goal. They never got it in the end zone. Almost completely shut them out. So for that, with everything else going on, to me, a little bit of extra credit, they get an A+. Special teams is a B+. They did exactly what we expect. Brian Anger was fantastic. Yeah, there was the missed field goal, so they can't get an A. They did what we expected, and then a little bit more. So I give them a B+. To me, that brings the overall grade for the entire game is an A-. In the end, guys, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won. For all the things that we can say about the game and who didn't do what right, they won. They won. They did enough on offense to be ahead on the scoreboard, and the defense shut down the other team. And I tell you what, I'll take that 19 times a year. 19 out of 19 games a year. And if you're keeping track, that's how many games you got to go all the way to through the Super Bowl. I'll take that every time. Defense does just enough to be ahead, and the defense shuts down the other side. Let's do it. I don't care what the score is at that point, as long as that's the story for us. Final thoughts. You know, guys, there's a leadership principle here that says peak at the right time. Peak at the right time. The Buccaneers are peaking at the right time. If you need proof of that, let's check in on our quarter score. Okay, we've been keeping track of this, right? The first quarter of the season, we went 1-3 on our games. Kind of like we did last year. Went 1-3. The second quarter of the season, we went 2-2. That's where we split them. Didn't like how we split them there. It wasn't good how we split them there, but we split them. Still, we did better than the first quarter. We're now in the third quarter of the season. We have 1 game to go in this quarter. Currently, we are at 3-0, which means as of right now, regardless of what happens in San Diego on Sunday, we have officially been better this quarter than we were the last quarter. We have yet once again improved over the quarter prior to what we're doing. The Bucs are peaking at the right time. Now, I'll be ecstatic if we finish this quarter 4-0. And I have a feeling I might be ecstatic this weekend because I really think we can go win this one. We're doing really good on the road. I also think this could be a trap game. We've won 3 in a row. We've got momentum on our side. We have to continue to execute. If we execute, we win. So let's do it that way. I'd be ecstatic if we wound up at 4-0. And then we've got 1 more quarter. Got 1 more quarter. Let's say we wind up at 3-1 on this quarter. The only way to improve there is to go 4-0 at the end of the year. Hey, by the way, Bucs fans, let me remind you, this is pretty much where we were at this time last year. Heading into the stretch of the season, 6 wins. Last year we skidded out. I swear to Lord heaven above, if we skid out this year, I'm going to lose it. As will you guys. I don't think that's happening. I don't think that's happening at all. You know why? Because the culture is changing around Tampa Bay. The culture is changing. We're not going to skid out. We're not. Are we going to wind up 4-0? I don't know. I think we can. I 100% think we can. I think, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. I know a lot of you guys disagree with me out there. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think that this team has everything it takes, and I think I'm looking at the schedule. Realistically, we can go 5-0 here at the end of the season. I wholeheartly believe that. You know what that actually means? That means that if we go 5-0 here to run out the rest of the table, we will have gone 8-0 in the second half of our season. That's fantastic. That'd be fantastic. I think we can do it. Bucs fans, we can do it. Now, I'm not predicting. Okay, I hate predicting, and I'm not making a beer bet on this one. Sorry, Bucks and Brews guys, but I predict. Nope, not predict. I know that we can go 5-0. We can do it. We can beat the Chargers. We'll go on the road. We can beat the Saints at Raymond James because we have to keep winning at Raymond James. We can beat Dallas because we're doing really good on the road. And by that time, Dallas will probably have locked things up. They're just playing for home field advantage. They're continuing whatever quest they have, but they're also not going to be going. It doesn't matter. I want them to go as hard as they can because I think we can go in there and beat them. I 100% do. Then we're going to go visit the Saints after that. We're going to be in their dome. That's also a big trap game right there, I believe. I really do. But again, we're on the road. We're doing really well on the road as a team. And I think we can go in and beat the Saints and wind up sweeping the Saints. And then come home and we play our second game against the Panthers. We're ending the season. I think we can beat them there too. So I'm thinking we can. I absolutely believe we can go 5-0. Some people don't believe me. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But that's how I think we can go, guys. All right, guys. Well, now I'd like to know your thoughts on my thoughts about this whole thing. Let me know your thoughts on the game. You can do that by shooting me an email to thepewtercast@gmail.com. Or you can find me on the Twitter sphere at the PewterCast, or find me on Facebook.com/the PewterCast. I do respond to all forms of communication, all forms of feedback, and it's part of what makes things more fun, being part of this Bucs fandom, part of this Bucs community, the PewterCast community out there in social media. So come in, talk with us in any of those ways. We'll talk back to you. All right, guys, well, stay tuned. We're coming up with our top 5 segment next. We'll be right back. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. And right now, for you, fans of the PewterCast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. And in honor of the movie Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which is coming out this month, the book I think you should check out is really any one of the books in the Harry Potter series, which has recently been added to the more than 180,000 titles that Audible has available, which can be listened to on your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or your MP3 player. I am personally going through these books again, and the reader for this series is the incredible Jim Dale. If you're a Harry Potter fan like me and you haven't experienced the audio version of Harry Potter, then I will tell you you are missing out. To give it a shot and download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/the PewterCast. Again, that's audibletrial.com/the PewterCast for your free audiobook. Welcome back to the PewterCast. You're listening to episode number 22. For today's top 5, normally this would be a top 3 when I have a guest with me, but since it's just me by myself today, we're going to up it to a top 5. On this show, I have talked a lot about culture. Ever since episode 1, we've been talking about culture. And I said then, we're probably going to talk about it quite a bit, so get used to it. But today I'm going to switch up this talk a little bit. Now, we don't always talk about culture in the top 3. But overall, I want to switch this up. And I think it goes hand in hand with culture, but it's more than culture. It's different than culture. And that's the topic of leadership. Now, we hear so much about Jameis's leadership. I thought we'd take a moment and I'd pick out my own kind of top 5 leadership moments, top 5 leadership showings, top 5 leadership qualities that I am seeing in Jameis Winston. Now, you guys may or may not know this about me. I am a longtime student of leadership. I believe that organizations can rise and fall on leadership. This is why I believe in culture so much. I've been talking about it because I know that when you create a good culture around an organization, you cannot always, it's really hard to draw a line from culture all the way down to the bottom line and how much money you're making and how successful you are as a business. And I come from the business world. So it's hard to do that. But the smart leader understands that there is a direct connection between culture and between your bottom line and how things are being ran. I believe that that's also true on the sports field. In whatever sport you go with, that when you have a good culture, it translates to wins. Okay? However, culture is created by leadership. And so I study leadership. How do we create good culture? How do you lead well? Leadership is something people can be born with it, but it is something that you can learn. It is something that can be fanned into flame. So for criteria this week, I looked at a lot of things that really honestly could double as culture defining moments, but they don't really have to. These are qualities that for me, as somebody who has studied leadership as much as I have, when I see it in somebody, it's like a textbook moment. Like I can recognize it. I can see it. And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to define the leadership principle that I've seen being enacted. Then I'm going to talk about the moment where I saw it applied. And this is all coming from Jameis. This is things I've seen Jameis do. All right. So number 5 on my list is the principle of lead your circle appropriately. All right. Now, this is the leadership principle that talks about us. We all have circles of influence around us. And the closer the circle is, the more directly involved we can be, the more intimately involved we can be in what's happening there. And as the circle gets bigger and bigger and grows out and out, the less and less and less involved in the details of it you can be. Okay. But you are still involved at an appropriate level as the circle goes out. Okay. And this is one that I actually saw happening today. Jameis Winston at his press conference comes out and he said he had a ball in his hand and he said, I want to give this game ball to the fans. Now, Jameis could not, they joked with him a little bit about what that meant, but he's coming out giving a game ball to the fans. He did that because the fans showed up at Raymond James this last week and they were loud, they were cheering, the team was feeding off of that energy. It was magnetic. Absolutely magnetic. And Bucs fans, we were a part of making that happen. If you were physically at that game, you were a part of the win. And that's why, by the way, guys, that's why this whole podcast exists, is to help us be better fans. This is a podcast. This is a show that is by the fans, for the fans, to help us all be better fans. He presents the fans with a game ball. Okay, now that's a gesture, right? Now, he can't really come out and he can't come knock on our door and hand us a game ball and say, I want to present this to you as a fan. He can't do that. Okay. But he can come out in a way that is appropriate. Okay. This is the circle. We are a little bit more removed from Jameis, than say Mike Evans or Doug Martin, who's right there, and the guys that are literally in the huddle with him. Okay. Jameis cannot come out and write a letter to each one of us personally and read it to us. Okay. Which, by the way, that's he's leading his circle appropriately, right? The gesture means a lot. Okay. Ray J was hopping this game. And Jameis is the quarterback of the team, the face of the team, wanted to acknowledge that the fans had a part of this and give it its proper credit. Give us, the fans, our proper credit. You also saw this happening in camp this last year when the crowd started, Jameis, Jameis. They started to chant, right? Jameis. And he said, no. Tampa Bay. He's leading fans. And he's leading fans in a way that's really appropriate to where we are in connection to the circle. He's leading his circles appropriately. But he's not forgetting about us. Okay, the danger with this is that the further you get out in circles, the more you can be forgotten about. Have you ever been at a job where you just felt like the leader of your job didn't care, didn't really know about you? Maybe it was the manager of your store, or maybe even your district manager, or most likely your CEO didn't even know who you are. Depending on what, if you're working for, say, I don't know, Papa John's, Papa John probably doesn't know your name if you're a delivery driver. Maybe he does. Actually, I know John Schnatter tends to get out in his stores and know who's out there, but it wouldn't be, there's things where that can be, you've got to lead your circles appropriately. Okay, so that's number 5. Number 4, the principle that I saw enacted here was, as a leader, you have to have divided satisfaction. And this principle talks about where after a great win or a successful campaign or something, on the one hand, you have to celebrate and champion all the victories that you had along the way. You have to celebrate how good you and your team actually did because you won. You did well, okay? But the leader will be divided in that celebration because on the other side, he or she will also be thinking of all the things that they could have done better because they'll know where all the flaws were. They'll know where things weren't just right. Even though we won, and this was a great victory, and let's celebrate that. There's a piece of me that knows that there's a way we can get better. Guys, I'm going to tell you what, I see this in Jameis Winston every single press conference. Every single one. He knows what kind of game they really had, but he just keeps saying, he knows that it was a good game. He knows this was a great game, that this was a milestone game for the season. But he kept saying, I have to keep getting better. I just want to keep getting better. You know who else we saw this in? Tiger Woods, who going in, to the last round of the Masters was up by like 20 some odd strokes or down by, I don't know how you say that. He was winning by like 20 some odd strokes, but he was out there on the putting green because he was mad that he took too many strokes that day. Or maybe he was out at the driving range that night when he should have been resting or should have been partying. Guys, we also see this in Jameis when Cutter talks about him, or when Cutter says he arrives at the facility at 6 a.m. and he looks over and there's Jameis's car, and he finds out Jameis has been there for an hour already just watching film because Jameis has to continue to get better. And that leads us into number 3. It's called the Philo or the Philo principle. And this is the one where it says first in, last out. Philo, the Philo principle, Philo principle. Military uses this one all the time. The commander of a mission is the first one to set boots on the ground. And he is the last one to take his boots off the ground when they're leaving. That's what a good leader does. Jameis arriving before everyone else at a facility to watch film, or better yet, Jameis arriving before everybody else the very first day of his rookie camp so he could be there to shake a hand and greet everyone as they came into the building. That's leadership. That's establishing yourself. To be the last one to go home because he's in the weight room or he's out throwing more balls after practice. You also hear of Gerald McCoy doing this, right? He's staying after practice to get more reps with the younger guys. That's Philo. That's the Philo principle. First in, last out. Great leadership principle that we're seeing from Jameis Winston. All right, I love this one. This is one of my favorite leadership principles of all time. Number 2 on my list is leaders replicate. Leaders replicate. Other people multiply, but leaders replicate. Leaders know that they can't lead by themselves. It takes actually a team of leaders to lead an organization. So whoever that chief leader is, they have to begin to replicate themselves into others. You can't just add in other leaders. You've got to replicate yourself into them. A manager will tell you what to do and maybe even show you how to do it. A leader will help you understand why you're doing it and get you to think about it the same way that they do, so that when you see it in your brain, you can respond exactly how that leader would respond and just take care of it yourself. And you see, that's the whole key to replication. You've got to get people to see and think about something in the same way that you do as a leader. That way, you don't have to be the one who's always having to have solutions to the problems. Other people can solve them before they ever get to you. Now, this doesn't make everybody a bunch of automatons, everybody thinking exactly the same. No. Actually, what it does is it harnesses the individual and their own personality and their own experiences that they're going to bring to a situation. It means simply getting everybody on the same page and kind of saying, guys, this is how we're going to respond to these situations. Now, we've seen this year a number of times in Jameis Winston. We saw it before the season began when he went to Gerald McCoy and he called Gerald up to being more vocal on the team. Now, it's not something that Gerald is super comfortable with. It's not something that is his natural makeup, his natural bent. But he goes in and he calls him up and he says, Gerald, we need you to do this. Let me explain why. And he replicated something of himself into Gerald McCoy, who was, before Jameis came along, the de facto leader of the team. And let me tell you what, GMAC's pregame speech this week was awesome. We talked a lot about it on the Instant Gas this last week. It was awesome. Go listen to it. It's on Buccaneers.com. You can go find that out right now. We'll wait till after the show's over. Jameis is also replicated into Quan Alexander, because he's kind of the quarterback of the defense, right? That's what they keep saying. Quan is now coming in an hour early to watch more tape as well. He's coming in an hour early to spend time with Mike Smith and sit in his office learning more about the defense. You know why? When you ask him, he's like, well, I saw Jameis doing that. I saw Jameis coming in early, finding out more, and I said, I've got to be like that. Jameis is replicating. We all know Jameis lost a bunch of weight this past summer, right? Well, apparently so did Mike Evans. After spending so much time with Jameis, Mike said, well, man, if he's losing some weight, I better do it too. I got to get more fit. I got to get faster. I got to get better. Better than all of that, though. Better than all of that, and we're seeing it happen. And this is why I think the team can win out. I mentioned that at the end of the last segment. I think the team could win out this year. I really do. It's because Jameis's mindset about winning is replicating into everyone. And that's being bolstered by people like Robert Ayers who are coming in going, no, I just expect to win. Every single play, I expect to go out there and win. Every single time. Leaders replicate. It's something we're seeing in Jameis. It's a great leadership principle that he is exhibiting every single day. All right, and my number one. Time for my number one leadership quality that I'm seeing displayed in Jameis Winston is the servant leader. He's a servant leader. In his best-selling book, The Purpose-Driven Life, Rick Warren opens up with these 4 words that everyone, especially a leader, should take to heart. You ready? It's this. It's not about you. It's not about you. A good leader knows that he isn't in his leadership capacity to have everyone serve him and his every wish. Rather, he exists to serve the people, to guide them, to unify them, to point them to a larger purpose for all of them. And guys, this is what we're seeing Jameis do every single day. Now, this one may be a little harder to pinpoint and say, see, that's where he did it there, or see, he did it there, or see, he did it there. But some examples of this are kind of like that letter that he wrote to everyone that we've been talking about for a couple of weeks. He said in that he expressed his servanthood to them. He said, I'm so thankful to be your quarterback. I'm so thankful to serve you as quarterback. Now, he did that to bring them together as a family because for whatever reason, they couldn't do it themselves. He's helping to guide that, to shape that, to mold that. It's these kinds of things that as a servant leader, it gives him the buy-in for other players. We hear about how he's winning over other players. He can't do that by just going in and going, I'm the leader, so you must now follow me. No. He's going in. He's earning the leadership that other people are giving to him. He's earning that buy-in, and he's doing that by being a servant. This is what will give him the ability to say the hard things to the team. This is what actually makes him a leader. Because leaders influence other people. And if you don't have any influence, you're not leading. This is what makes me believe the team can win out this year. Now, I don't know if they will or not. But I know that they can. I know they can do it. I don't know if they will. I know they can. So that's my top 5, guys. That's my top 5. Those are my top 5 leadership principles that I am seeing lived out daily in Jameis Winston. And it's something we talk about how much of a leader he is. These are kind of the things that I, as a student of leadership, am seeing. A couple of honorable mentions that almost made the list but didn't. There's a principle called the will to and the want to. It's you have the will to, you have the want to. I want to win. I want to go out there, but do you have the will to actually make it happen? It's the will to versus the want to. Words matter. Jameis Winston chooses his words very, very carefully. There's a principle called the owner versus the hireling. I'm not going to explain it, but it's a beautiful principle. And Jameis is an owner. He's not a hireling. He owns this team. Being faithful in the small things, that one explains itself. Trading what's good for what's best. And then perhaps my favorite one that didn't make this list, actually this is one that I feel like tends to describe me personally, is to err with a bias towards action. If Jameis is going to make a mistake, he's going to make it while in motion. I love that. All right, PewterCast fans, now I'd like to know how your picks stack up against my picks. All right. What are the leadership principles that you are seeing Jameis Winston display over and over again? Well, you can let me know on Twitter at the PewterCast or on Facebook.com/the PewterCast, or shoot me an email if you're a little bit more long-winded. That's the PewterCast@gmail.com. Now, before we get out of here, why don't we take a look at this week's poll?
It's real bad. Okay? I don't like those numbers at all.
Just one poll. Those things aren't scientific.
Yes, they are. All this is science. This is math.
All right. Well, this week, we've got 5 games left in the season, and a lot of people are talking about playoff implications and where we're going to wind up. I see a lot of you guys out on social media this week saying, hey, how are we going to end up the season? So we asked, how do you think the Bucs are going to finish the season? 5-0, 4-1, 3-2, or 2-3? If we finish 1-3 or 0 and whatever, or 1-4 and 0-5, oh my gosh, I don't even know. So this is normally the part where I'd ask my guests what they would think and where they would go. For me personally, I hate predicting. I think we can go 5-0. I really do. I really think we can go 5-0. If we don't, I think it's 4-1. I think it's 4-1 and we end up the season 10-6. That'd be my guess. If I had to guess, that's where I think we are. But I think we can go 5-0. I really do. As far as the voting goes, just 9% of the people said that they think we're going to go 5-0. Oddly, just 9% of the people also said we're going to go 2-3. This was a pretty good bell curve. You had 9% on either side, and then right in the middle at 4-1 and 3-2, you guys are pretty evenly split. Just 3 votes separated the winner. But coming in with 42% of the vote, the majority of you think that the Bucs are going to finish out the season at 3-2. Separated just barely by people who think we're going to finish 4-1. All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for this segment. Stay tuned with us. We'll be right back with our final segment of the show, Fan to Fan. Hey, PewterCast fans, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for how you have been supporting this show. Whether you've simply subscribed to us on your favorite podcasting platform, or you've taken the time to communicate with us through social media, or have even gone the extra step to rate and leave us a review. Maybe you've left a monetary donation at paypal.me/thepewtercast, or you've taken advantage of your free audiobook at audibletrial.com/thepewtercast. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. You have made this first year of the podcast truly more than I could have ever imagined. And if you or someone you know has a business that you would like to become an official sponsor of the show, please email me at thepewtercast@gmail.com and put sponsorship in the subject line. I would love the opportunity to discuss these options with you to help keep the PewterCast going. So however you support the show, thank you. This would not be possible without you. And we're back. This is episode 22 of the PewterCast, Kentucky Fried Sea Chicken. Yeah, I think this title might be one of my more proud titles of the entire run. I try to come up with these quippy titles for the main episodes anyway, and this one's one of my favorites, Kentucky Fried Sea Chicken. All right, well, guys, for today's discussion segment, since it's just me, we're going to be hitting an old favorite, really, of mine. Fan to fan. And basically what this is, it's like you and I are sitting on a back porch, chilling out, having a beer, just talking. And what are the things that we might talk about? So we crack open a brew. So what do you guys think? Think we're going to make the playoffs? Let's talk about that for a minute. It could happen. Yeah, I really think so. It could happen. You know, if you look at the board right now, the Bucs are currently number 7 in the NFC, and it's the top 6 that get in, right? And a lot of people are looking at it saying that, it almost might be easier for us to overtake Atlanta and win the division than it would be for us to jump into the wild card spot. And I understand what they're saying there. But either way, we get in the playoffs, right? Either way. And it's really possible. A lot of it just depends on what we do and what Atlanta does or what some of these other teams do. And guys, here's the deal. At the end of the day, we're still early talking about the playoffs. Okay. It's not bad taking a look and seeing what could happen, but trying to predict it, I think we're still way early on that. Because the truth is we can't control what others do. Okay. We can only control what we as a team do, right? The Bucs can only control what the Bucs do. So let's just focus on what we can do and let the chips kind of fall where they may. Okay, and if we do enough at the end of the season and other people falter enough, we'll make the playoffs. And if we don't, we don't. But you know what? This will have been a successful season, I think, either way. Either way, I think this will have been a successful season. So what about the rest of the schedule for the Bucs? We talked about that a little bit. And here's what I'll say. To those of you who say 3-2 and 4-1, I think you're just trying to protect yourself, guys. And I get it, guys. I get it. We've certainly been jaded by this team, right? You don't want to get your hopes up too much, but you're looking at if you're saying you're going to go 4-1. To me, obviously, you're looking down the next stretch and you're going, well, we've got that Dallas game. There's no way we're beating Dallas, but I think we might be able to beat everybody else. So 4-1. For those of you that are saying 3-2, you're probably looking at the schedule going, well, we could probably beat the Chargers, and we could probably beat the Saints once, but we're probably going to split with them. The Saints are an up-and-coming team right now, so we'll lose once to the Saints. And then, there's that Dallas game. We're definitely going to lose that one. So I think we go 3-2. Which I get it. That's a real conservative, that's a real realistic way of looking at things. But it's realistic. That's fine. Here's the deal. I expect us to win, though. I really do. I expect us to win. And I think we can do it. I wholeheartedly think we can do it. And I expect it to happen. I really do. Which is why I have no problem saying 5-0. Now, do I really think we're going to go out and beat the Dallas Cowboys? Yeah, I kind of do. I really do. Do I think we're going to sweep the Saints and the Panthers this year? Yeah, I do. Do I think we're going to go out and we're going to march into San Diego? You know what? San Diego has been good to us before in the past, playing in that stadium. It's been pretty good in the past. And I think it could be again. So, the rest of the schedule, guys, I get it. I get why you're being hesitant. I really understand. There might be some wisdom to that. But at the same time, I think we can, and I expect us to do it. I fully expect us to do it. All right, let's move off of that. We've talked about that quite a bit this episode. Mike Glennon rumors have started circulating again. I've seen a handful of things out there on the interwebs talking about Mike Glennon and whether or not he's going to return next season. And the rumor is that he could actually be really close to signing a contract for coming back. That's the rumor. I don't know if there's any. I have not verified that. I don't know, guys. Don't go out and quote me on that. I've heard that. I think I saw that somewhere. But here's the thing. I don't know if he's close to a contract right now or not. I'd be very surprised if he signed a contract. I think Mike Glennon's going to want to, he's at the end of his rookie contract this year, right? I think he's going to want to see if he has any worth on the open market. I want to see if he's going to think if anybody else is going to come in and try to sign him to a new contract. But the truth is, I don't think there's much of a market for Mike Glennon. I really don't. And I think the fastest way for Mike Glennon to get to a Super Bowl is to stay right where he is. Right here on the team, right there is Jameis's backup. And if we sign him to a new contract, Ryan Griffin will most likely be cut the very next day. We might cut him and then try to sign him back to the practice squad. I think that's really likely. You know, a lot of people at the beginning of the season just have this foregone conclusion that Mike Glennon's going to be gone at the end of the year. And I mean, obviously Cutter and Light, they're preparing for that eventuality by the fact that they're keeping Ryan Griffin not just on the practice squad where he could be snatched off by somebody else, but they're keeping him on the active roster, meaning nobody can snatch him up. Okay, so they're preparing for that because they don't think Mike Glennon's going to be here next year. But I got to tell you what, I'd love to have Mike Glennon as our backup quarterback. And I got to tell you what, to sit back and you know, nobody goes to the NFL to be a backup as a career backup. I get it. Nobody wants to do that. But I tell you what, right now, you could pay me league minimum just to go be a backup quarterback right now. Are you kidding me? To get to go be a professional NFL player? Even if it's just as a backup, are you kidding me? Yeah, I'm going to do that. Heck yeah. It's better than doing what old Tebow did, who they wanted to move him around and have him play. And he said, no, I'm not if I don't play quarterback, I ain't playing nothing else. Well, where is he now? He's in a developmental league for baseball. He's not even in the league. He ain't even playing. Ain't even playing. Now, I think it's dumb that Tebow wasn't picked up as a quarterback elsewhere. The boy knows how to win. He might have had an ugly throw, but the boy knew how to win. But all of that regardless, I think he did it to himself by refusing to check down into a different position. And now he's out of the league. Better to be a backup in Tampa Bay than to be sitting at home watching football on the couch. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, Mike Glennon. That's all I'm saying. All right. I think we got time for one more. Why don't we check in? Let's check in on, and we've not done this, I think, like in forever. Let's check in on the PewterCast, the very first annual PewterCast Fantasy Football League. What do you think? Let's see how things are going. Because that's what I say. Hey, how are you doing in fantasy this year? Well, guys, I'll tell you, for me personally, I'm doing pretty good in the league. I am 8-4 on the year. We've got one more game to go before we get to the fantasy playoffs. And currently I'm number 2, which means I'm going to be in the actual playoffs. Now, here's the thing. This week I'm facing Nick Citro, and he is also 8-4. In fact, 3 of the top 4 are 8-4. And by the way, the number 1 person in the bottom bracket, guys, the number 5, he's also 8-4. So this is going to be an interesting week. For me and Nick, both, for either one of us, a loss could completely knock us out of the playoffs. Currently, we're both scheduled to go to the big playoffs, the big dance. But for whichever one of us loses, I think is pretty much going to be out of the playoffs. And right now, as of this moment, I was just checking it, I am projected to lose this game 94-99. So that's a pretty close game right there. That's just going to depend on how the individual players play. You can't line it up much better than that. And trust me, there's not many more people left in the waiver claim line that I can bring in and bolster the team. So that's what I got is 94-99. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. I can go through and list everybody that's in there, but yeah, that's where we are. PewterCast. We're getting ready to head into the playoffs. This has been a fun year to have the fantasy football league, to kind of get to know some of you fans on that level. It's a fun little group. So yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to wrap up this segment as well as this episode. Hey, listen, a final reminder, you can get in touch with me about anything that we've talked about today at facebook.com/thepewtercast or on Twitter @thepewtercast. Or if you're a little more winded than 140 characters, feel free, just email me at thepewtercast@gmail.com. Well, I'd like to thank my guest for being, oh, wait, there is no guest. So, hey, listen, guys, no, thank you guys, the fans. Thank you, the fans, for being with me really on this journey of the first year of the PewterCast. Now, we're 3/4 of the way through the year, just about. getting there. We're just about 3/4 of the way through the year, so we've got a little bit of this year left to go. But already, I just want to say thank you guys so much. You have made this journey so worth it. I look forward every single week to be able to do 2 podcasts a week for you guys is phenomenal. It is absolutely phenomenal. If I had a game ball to give you guys, I would absolutely give you guys that game ball. Now listen, fans, as we close out the show today, I am reminded of one of my favorite TV shows that I suspect maybe at least a smattering of you out there might also watch the show. It's on HBO. It's called Game of Thrones. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. And for everything else that this show is about and all the whatever, it's one that, like Jameis, our quarterback, it's a great study on leadership. Now, there's a character named Joffrey. He's one of the kings. And the main problem with his rule, with his kingship on the show, is that he openly believed that because he was the king, he could do whatever he wanted, and the people existed for his amusement. But he failed to realize that a leader exists to be not to be served, but to serve. Guys, the truth is we all have a kingdom of our own at some point in our lives. Maybe you'll own a company, you'll own your own business one day. Maybe you're a department manager, or you manage a store. Maybe if you look out at your kingdom, it's just your house, it's your family, and you are kind of the leader of your family. Guys, just look around. Somewhere, someplace, you are the one who is in control. You are the one who is leading it. Maybe it's just your own personal life, your own personal finances. Even if your only subject is your dog. All right, guys, that's what I'm saying. We all have our own little kingdom. Remember, your job is not to rule over them, but to serve them by helping them become the best that they can possibly be. That's true leadership. And that's the kind of leadership that people want to follow. So until next time, Bucs fans, it's time to discharge those bolts. Go Bucs.